Coming to you live and or pre-recorded, I'm Sven Sandberg from the WTTT studios in beautiful Central Florida, and this is The Time Traveler, random ramblings and mindless musings from a prematurely retired travel consultant with your host, Greg Angstrom. Okay, thank you, and welcome to another hard to believe I would waste my time doing this episode of The Time Traveler. After being promised now for several episodes a visit back to my humble beginnings in the travel industry, today is the day. All right, I have finally stopped hyperventilating over my last episode dealing with my COVID-19 test. If you missed that episode for some reason, it is a must-see. All right, yes, you know what that music means. It means it's time to open the Time Traveler mailbag. Now, several comments or observations have surfaced from yesterday's episode. Now, you may remember our Q-tip cotton swab right there. Okay, well, my wife said after watching the show yesterday that maybe Q-tip wants to sponsor this awesome channel since my sparkling water favorites here have not stepped up to the plate. Well, I think what we'll do, we'll take Mr. Q-tip, we'll stick him right here, and hope that someone at Unilever sees that and wants to be part of the party here. All right? My favorite sister named Charla says about the COVID-19 test, that's why they call it the brain tickler. Now, two takeaways from this. One, she must think I have a brain after all, and two, she relishes to delight in someone else's misery, especially if it's her brother. Now, I also had several, very funny, this is hilarious. I had an, oh my, sorry to laugh at your misery, but that was funny. Someone else said they had this procedure a year ago for a flu test and laughed so hard because I nailed the description exactly. Another comment said, this episode made my eyes water watching this, and all the other episodes. Now, I'm not quite sure if Steve's tears were from laughing or being in misery watching these antics. And finally, my favorite Ecuadorian friend named Francisco said, por favor, una página en español. He wants me to do a YouTube channel page in Spanish. Francisco, escucha, lo siento, pero no es posible. All right. Sven, do you know what time it is? Yep, Sven. All right, it's time to hop in the time machine and set the dial for 1983. All right, we have taken off. We are in 1983. I mentioned a few episodes ago that we opened our franchise travel agency, International Tours of Des Moines, on September 12, 1983, less than 2 weeks after the Russians shot down Korean Airlines Flight 007. Now, it's hard enough opening a business, but adding angst over flying due to a major airline disaster only adds to the drama. Just imagine if someone had opened a travel agency in January 2020. Ouch, not good. Now I've got a couple of pictures here I want to share with you, see if they'll play well. Okay, so our office, you see a Baskin-Robbins sign there on the one end and a Radio Shack. Our office was right between the two in a nice little shopping center in Des Moines called Sherwood Forest. We also had a picture of me here at my desk. And one thing to note, you can see on the wall, hopefully, that it's basically wallpaper that has an airport in it, and that looks like LaGuardia Airport with the skyline of New York in the background. That may be a little glare, but I think you get the idea. Now, here is my wife sitting here at the desk. She did a lot of our bookkeeping work for a while. And the one nice thing about International Tours, I really love their logo. You'll notice it's an I and a T with the globe kind of dotting the I. And one of the slogans they had was, traveling, we're it, IT. So that played nicely. And I also found this in my collection of stuff, a little IT lapel pin. I don't know if that shows up well. Probably not. But again, you get the idea for that. All right, well, let's begin by defining travel agency and travel agent, especially for our younger viewers. In 1983, travel agencies existed for clients to make travel reservations. Travel agencies were filled with travel agents, consultants, counselors, advisors, anything else you wanted to call us, but the titles have changed somewhat over the years. There was no internet at that time, so travelers could either contact us or the airlines. In that day, we all had the same price, with the difference being that the airlines paid us a 10% commission to sell their tickets, hence we were agents for the airlines. Rather than the client calling half a dozen airlines to find the best price, a quick call to us would get them the answer they were looking for. Easy peasy. Well, years later this model would change drastically, but more about that on another episode. Now you may recall that my love for flying and travel started with that first float plane ride in 1968, as well as keeping travel journals on family vacations. Years later, my interest expanded to poring over airline timetables. Now, for those unfamiliar with airline timetables, here is an example from United Airlines effective April 27, 1969. And this was basically a paper timetable that would fold up into a nice rectangle. And in that timetable would be airline schedules for United Airlines looking something like that. Okay, city pairs, times. Got to remember, this is pre-computer days, so very interesting concoction there to deal with, all right? So these timetables could be found at airline ticket counters and also on the airplanes themselves. It was basically a way for a traveler to plan future journeys since no computers were available in those days. Now, my wife would question my sanity, and I think at times she still does, as I would love reading these timetables to see where flights originated and where they ended. Anything related to air travel, I was all over it. While the pocket-sized versions were available per airline, we as travel agents had the mother of all timetables called the Official Airline Guide, or OAG for short. Now, it's a little hard to tell from this picture, but the OAG was about 3 inches thick and would leave a mark if you dropped it on your foot. This OAG was not just the timetable for one airline, but for all airlines. It was like the Bible for air travel. Well, we have a lot more ground to cover, but for now, I'm kind of a big deal. Ciao for now. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Remember to subscribe, share, and like this channel. This is Sven Sandberg for The Time Traveler, random ramblings and mindless musings from a prematurely retired travel consultant.